Hello, my friends. My name is Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide context in the war in Ukraine. It's been a crazy couple of days in Russia, not so much in Ukraine, but in the Kursk region in Russia. So I'm going to talk about that predominantly through this video, but I want to talk about a couple other things first. So the first thing is I stopped the last video last night talking about the Incredible Hulk, right? Incredible means like hard to believe. I'm trying to be the credible Hulk, right? So I'm going to highlight, I'm going to show my sources, I'm going to do all that because I want you to understand I'm not just saying, trust me, bro, because that's not how I roll. Okay, so here, first, losses of the occupiers in Ukraine, 1,140 Russian casualties, 2 tanks, 9 armored combat vehicles, 36 artillery, 59 vehicles and fuel tanks. The numbers are about right here, but these losses are smaller than they usually are day over day. It's about 1-to-1, maybe a little bit better than 1-to-1 Russian to Ukrainian losses from Andrew Perpetua's list. And then this makes me a little nervous. 0 of 2 Iskanders shot down, 2 of 2 KH-59s, and 4 of 4 Shahed drones shot down last night. That there's so few makes me think, now there's 3 potential explanations. One, they're just sidetracked. The Russians are sidetracked, so they're doing other things. That could be it. Or they're running out of Shaheds. I saw somebody say, I don't think that that's the case. Or 3, they're saving up for a big day of 100 missiles and drones in one day. And I think that's probably what they're starting to do here. Okay. Fighting in Kursk region. This is the big story, clearly the big story. We're going to spend the rest of our time together talking about this. Fighting in the Kursk region enters its 3rd day, Russia says. This is in the BBC. At least 1,000 Ukrainian forces supported by tanks and armored vehicles crossed the border on Tuesday. Ukraine's military has maintained resolute silence on the allegations, but a senior advisor to President Volodymyr Zelensky has blamed Russia's unequivocal aggression for any military actions. A long-term aide to President Zelensky added, "War is war with its own rules, where the aggressor inevitably reaps corresponding outcomes." Russia's defense ministry said advancements and breakthrough attempts were all thwarted. Yeah, the first day they said, yeah, they didn't get through the border. And then somebody else said, yeah, they got tens of meters inside the border, but it's contained. And now we know it's nothing like that. The Kremlin said that Ukraine had lost 660 military personnel since the start of hostilities in Kursk. BBC is unable to verify death tolls. Its update on Thursday, Moscow said Kyiv had lost 82 units of armored vehicles, a much higher number than its initial report that 11 tanks and more than 20 armored vehicles had entered Russia near Sudza on Tuesday morning. But on Wednesday, Russia's chief of staff, Gerasimov, said the advance into the Kursk region had been stopped. Well, it seems like it's still ongoing. The Institute for the Study of War said that the geolocated footage from the past 2 days showed that Ukrainian armored vehicles had advanced to positions 10 kilometers deep, and that's just deep, that's not wide, and we'll see how that translates into something else. So 6 miles plus inland, and then we'll look at just what that translates to in square miles. Okay. Gerasimov says the Ukrainian offensive in Kursk has stopped and they will be defeated. Of course he said that, but that doesn't mean that that's a corresponding to reality. Shaheds of RT, he says the Ukrainian suicide mission into Kursk is being systematically destroyed. Kyiv PR attempts, like its ludicrous Krikny and Belgorod operations, have no strategic logic. But maybe they do, and we'll talk about that. Here, Russian troops posed alongside a captured U.S. Hercules engineering vehicle. Whether this was just captured, or why would they have an engineering vehicle, or whether this is old is an open question. Okay, Russian news. This is Jason J. Smart. Russian news reported that these were destroyed Ukrainian tanks in Kursk, Russia. Hours later, the news was updated to read, these turn out to be Russian T-62 destroyed by the Ukrainian army in Russia. Yeah, okay, so here's the ISW, the Institute for the Study of War. Ukrainian forces have made confirmed advances of up to 10 kilometers into Russia's Kursk Oblast amid continued mechanized offensive operations on August 7th. And this will be updated, I'm sure, today. It's August 8th as I'm talking about this. Ukrainian armored vehicles have advanced to positions along the 38K 030 route, about 10 kilometers from the international border. The current confirmed extent of the location of Ukrainian advances in Kursk Oblast indicates that Ukrainian forces have penetrated at least 2 Russian defense lines and a stronghold. That's crazy. Like, how did they penetrate these defense lines? The resistance was just terrible, and the defense wasn't really defending well. A Russian insider source claimed that Ukrainian forces have seized 45 square kilometers of territory in Kursk Oblast since they launched the operation on August 6th. Other Russian sources reported that Ukrainian forces have captured 11 total settlements. Yeah, wow. Okay. Geolocated imagery posted on August 7th shows that Ukrainian forces captured over 40 Russian prisoners of war in the Sudza checkpoint. And I'll show you that in just a moment. Chechen units reportedly suffered heavy losses in Ukrainian attacks. Here's full video, and I'm not showing the video. This is just a still of the Ukraine's army went through the border checkpoint with Sudza. Russia, it seems they did not wait around to get their passport stamped. Ukraine took more Russian territory in 2 days than Russia took of Ukrainian territory in the past 2 years. Well, that's a little bit of an overstatement, but in 2 days, they took a month. I mean, it's pretty significant. More reports are coming in about Russian soldiers surrendering to Ukrainian captivity. This is Anton Gerashenko. Here's Jay in Kyiv showing some video of some captured Russians. Here is Kursk Oblast, OSINT technical. Kursk Oblast, a Ukrainian FPV drone slams into the tail rotor of a Russian Mi-28 Havoc helicopter. Ukrainian forces successfully downed multiple Russian helicopters in the opening hours of their offensive in Kursk, hampering Russian rotary wing activity. I will show you it like 2 seconds before it hits without it hitting. So there you see the drone going at it. Boom. I'm showing you just before the actual state of impact. Okay. Here's Noel reports. According to Russian sources, PMC Wagner forces stationed in Belarus, as well as units from Akhmat Special Forces, that's Kadyrov's forces, have been pulled up to the Kursk region. Okay, so what's going on? Recent operations in Russia's Kursk region may strengthen Ukraine's position in future talks, says Ukrainian presidential advisor. Now, there's a couple things that could be happening simultaneously. That's one of the things. Another thing is that it might be pulling resources away from the front line where they're making some incursions into Ukraine by having to reinforce here. Okay, so a sanitary zone, like they were saying with Kharkiv that they were going to create, but it appears that the Ukrainians are creating a sanitary zone, not the Russians, or they can attack back, but they can't use those same conscripts in Russia. Well, they can, but it's not going to be... it's politically kind of a landmine for them to do that. So they may have to divert their forces from down around Chasiv Yar and Avdiivka and that whole area where they're starting to make New York, where they're starting to make that ground. So it gives a real dilemma to the enemy. Jay in Kyiv says, while Russians ask what happened to the 15 billion rubles spent during 2.5 years of building 2 lines of defense in the Kursk region, Ukraine expands its area of control relatively unchallenged. And you saw the maps that we just saw. Okay, Anton Gerashenko, a Russian Z blogger, says, we were attacked. Will the CSTO say anything? Okay, so the CSTO is the Collective Security Treaty Organization. It's kind of the... what was the Warsaw Pact that every Warsaw Pact nation except for Belarus left, and what was remaining of the former Soviet Union itself that wasn't Warsaw Pact, the other countries, so Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Tajikistan, Belarus, will they do anything? Armenia is also a member, but de facto froze its membership and intends to withdraw from the treaty. Are they going to do anything? No, they're not going to do anything. I highly doubt that they'll do anything at all. Russian propagandists are essentially warning that Russians that situations similar to what's happening in Kursk might repeat in other areas. So they're actually worried about this. And a Russian Z blogger, his name is Yevgeny Podubny, we can't exactly tell. He was hit by something, and it looks like he might have been killed, but he also might just be in serious condition. They updated this after reporting that he was killed. Okay, let's turn our attention to some political thinking here. Medvedev, urged to capture Kyiv after attacks on Kursk region. Quote, "It's no longer just an operation to retake our official territories and punish the Nazis. It's possible and necessary to go to the lands of the still existing Ukraine, to Odessa, to Kharkiv, to Dnipropetrovsk, to Mykolaiv, to Kyiv, and beyond," he wrote in his Telegram channel. Well, he's always saying that, so there's nothing really new about that. But what's really interesting, this woman pointed out, Ukraine crossed another red line, and Russia's response, there's no nukes involved. See, this whole red line talk was just to dissuade the West from acting. Now, it's also interesting to note that this is 16 years since to the day, today, that Russia's invasion of Georgia, right? Today marks exactly 16 years since Russia invaded Georgia, an event that changed the balance of power in the region, paved the way for further aggressive actions by the Kremlin. The war in Georgia showed the international community that the principles of territorial integrity can be violated in the absence of decisive action. Today's events in Ukraine are a direct consequence of Europe's policy of appeasement and insufficient response to the aggression in 2008. That's right, George Bush said strong words and nothing happened. And then in 2014, after the invasion in Crimea and Donbass, Obama said strong words and nothing happened, right? This is what happens. And by the way, the Russians don't like it when this happens to them. Meanwhile, Jake Sullivan is in the White House trying to figure out what he's going to do because this provocation is making it so much worse. Well, it's actually a healthy thing in my estimation that the Ukrainians are pushing into Russia, now making it complicated for the Russians to be able to continue to do what they're doing. And then finally, I'm going to end with this. Say the line, Russia. Everything's going according to plan. Okay, my friends, that's it. Thank you for your time. I'll keep you updated on this situation. Tonight, probably in our 3 big stories, we'll talk about it a little bit more. And thank you for the time, the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.